In this lesson, we'll do a fun project using paper circuits to build a traffic light. We'll use the idea of switches that we learned in the last lesson. When you finish building the traffic light, it'll look something as shown in the video. On the left, what you see on the right is actually the circuit for the traffic light that we're going to build. But before we proceed further, let's ponder the question of whether this is a parallel circuit or a series circuit. I'll give you a second to think about it. What do you think? Is it series or in parallel? It is actually a parallel circuit. If it's not obvious, I would suggest you to go back to previous lessons and review them so that it becomes clear why this is a parallel circuit. Okay, let's get started. The first step is to take the template and cut the pieces out from the template. We'll start off cutting the back plate. As before, I have sped up the video, but feel free to pause it or play back slowly if any of the step is harder to follow. Next, let's cut the front and back pieces of the traffic light where we'll actually be sticking the copper tape and the LEDs. Finally, we'll have to cut the front shell which goes on the top. Once we have all the pieces cut out from the template, let's proceed to the next step. So in this next step, we'll add lights to the template. Take out the red LED first. We next have to fold the legs so that the positive side has the spiral and the negative side has a small inverted V. And the positive side is generally the longer leg and the negative side is the shorter leg for the LED. Do the same thing for the yellow and the green LEDs. So once we have the LEDs in place, let's start sticking the copper tape. So we'll start with the positive side, which is connected commonly to all the LEDs. Make sure the copper tape follows a yellow line. So leave a tiny bit extra at the end, which will be useful when we start sticking it to the base plate. Next, pick up the back side of the traffic light template. Also, take a roller and fold along the dotted line on both the front and the back of the traffic light template. Now use some sellotape or double-sided tape to stick the front and the back side of the template. Next, stick the copper tape on the negative terminal of the LED and then follow along on the back side. Make sure that the tracks do not overlap. If you overlap, then there will be short circuit, or both LEDs should come on simultaneously when you press one of them. So you'll be closing the circuit unintentionally. As we did on the front side, leave a little extra at the end. Now repeat the process for the yellow and the green LEDs. If at any point the copper tape gets detached or gets cut off, as you see now, you could just have some kind of an overlap and then continue the circuit as usual. Again, be careful not to overlap or go beyond the tracks. Once we finish sticking the copper tape and completing the circuit, let's get the base plate and align the tracks on the base plate. It might be a little tricky to align all the 4 copper traces, but take your time and make sure that the alignment is good enough so that it becomes easier for the future steps. Add some sellotape so that the traffic light template is stable enough and sticks properly to the base plate. Just be careful not to cover up all the exposed copper tape. We need a little region exposed so that we can finish up the circuit. Next, it's time to connect the batteries. So we'll use the same technique as what we used in the before, where we have a little sticky piece on top. Follow the yellow tracks and finish up the circuit. Notice how I'm making another 90-degree turn and extending the circuit. You will have the updated template where this extra region is marked with yellow tracks. Next, let's connect the battery. Notice how I'm putting the battery so that the negative side is on the bottom and sticks to the sticky side. Make sure that the positive side does not touch the negative terminal of the battery. Since I made a mistake by extending the positive side of the circuit a little further into the battery, I have to stick the battery a little on the top. As long as we follow the circuit diagram and get the circuit set up correctly, we should be able to get the traffic light working properly. Next, let us set up the switches for the LEDs. To make sure that the contacts are good enough, we'll do a simple hack. We just take a small piece of tape, fold it onto itself a little bit with a small sticky piece left. Then you stick that onto the LED side. This way we have a small blob of copper tape sticking out, so that when we press the switch, it will make proper contact. Let's repeat the steps for the other two LEDs. You should have a fold line marked on your template, on the base plate. Fold along that line and press and hold. You should probably see the LEDs coming up when you press the corresponding switch. You might not get it working properly the first time, so you might need to do a little bit of troubleshooting to make sure the contacts are good enough. This involves pressing the LED legs or making sure the copper tape is connected properly if you had a broken contact, and so on. Keep persisting to the debugging steps, and eventually you should be able to get the circuit properly connected and the lights coming up. Once you have that set up, you can take the shell for the lights and then stick that on top of the base plate. Just use some sellotape or double-sided tape to stick it to the base plate. Once you're happy with the connections, take the front shell and make some holes for the LEDs. Next, take a ruler and fold along the dotted line. Finally, add the shell on the LEDs so that it looks more prettier. Again, you can use some double-sided tape or sellotape to attach the shell to the circuit. And that should be it. Now we should have a functioning traffic light that you can play with. In going through this module, you learned the basics of electricity, you understood what current and voltage are, what are the differences, how do they change based off of the circuit configuration, and a lot more. And you did all this through an hands-on experience. So that's the fun part. Thanks for going through this course. I hope you enjoyed and learned something along the way. I'll see you in a different course sometime soon. Bye bye.